Yeah, I don't know. I guess I think that the fans, when you're in the arena and you see the event live, that's changes things because you get to see the whole thing. And I just, I'm obviously a big fan of the sport from day one. I never got into this for fame or for money. I only did this for love. When I first started it, I did for years for free. I never got paid. I did the amateurs for years. I just wanted to be, I made plenty of money as a DJ and I was doing very well in other things, but I love boxing so much and I used to do some boxing myself. So I wanted to stay involved in the sport and I love the ring announcers. So I think that maybe that's what translates to the fans because sometimes you have really good announcers, but they're doing other stuff. But me, my number one passion is boxing, always has been. And I hope that that's what translates to the fans.
Thank you for your generous answer. Who were which guys, boxers or announcers, were your main influence?
Well, no, my number one my number one boxer that I loved always was Sugar Ray Leonard. I love Sugar Ray Leonard because first of all, I was living in the area close to him when I was a kid. So he was close by to me. And this man, he had the speed, he had the power, the accuracy. He could box, he could slug, he could do different things, and he fought everybody. He had huevos.
Yes.
He was very strong heart, and I love this, and very technical also, but also could stand in the kitchen and go for it. And I love this, and we see very few fighters in history like this. So I always loved Sugar Ray Leonard. As far as announcers, the great Johnny Addy from Madison Square Garden. I loved Ed Darien. Ed Darien was really my favorite. I loved him. He did a lot of the fights in Atlantic City, and rest his soul, he's passed away, but a wonderful, wonderful guy.
So you are telling me you are from New York, that area?
Yeah, so my family's all from Brooklyn. I was born in Baltimore, and I lived in many different places. So I lived in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I lived in New York City, and I also lived in California. And of course, now I've lived all over the world, whether it's República Dominicana, whether it's Colombia, whether it's London, many different, not London, but England. So many different places, but really that's kind of where I came up.
So how was like to be in Madison Square Garden last weekend for the big, incredible fight, Amanda Serrano-Cary Taylor?
I'll tell you, that fight was really something special. We were treated to an incredible night, and what I loved so much about it was the solidarity of the female fight world that came together for it, whether Layla Ali and Christy Martin and Chris Cyborg and Clarissa Shields and Michaela Meyer, Sanisa Estrada, Alicia Baumgartner, Terry Harper, Sonia Lamonicus. All these women fighters were there to support their fellow women boxers. And it was one of the best atmospheres maybe that I've been in, one of the best. I've been in some really incredible fights in incredible places, but this was really, really special. It seemed almost that, of course it was a competition, but it was almost a celebration. Everybody knew that it was historic, that we were breaking a ceiling that night, something different was happening, and even though you had the Irish and the Boricuas, they were also happy to be there together. And so it was really a very celebratory experience, and the women, wow, they fought like warriors. So we got really treated to. It was a regalo. It was not regalito. It was a regalo.
Un gran regalo.
Big and gran regalo. Yeah.
Absolutely. Any chance to see you saying the fight starts now in Spanish someday?
La pelea comienza ahora. The fight starts now, baby. Yes, of course. I've done it before in Mexico.
Okay.
Yes, I've done it before in Mexico, but people tell me, no, dude, the fight starts now in English. So, okay, so I'm doing that.
When I speak about Mexicans, Cinco de Mayo obviously means boxing and normally means Mexican boxers in Vegas and other parts. Which Mexican boxers have you admired the most?
Oh God, there's too many to list. Sometimes, of course, you have the greats, okay? Like we talked about Chavez or Sanchez or Chiquita. We were talking about Finito. There's so many great Mexican fighters over the past. Barrera and oh my God, so many great fighters. It's hard to mention everybody. But sometimes the local guys that are toiling, that you don't see in the bright lights, When you go to the local gyms in Mexico and these guys are fighting, and you see the local fights in Mexico, because it's such a culture for boxing there, there's such respect for the fighters, and you see just so much heart in these fighters. It's more of the culture, and that's why I think the world appreciates Mexican fighters. I appreciate Mexican fighters and the fans, because they know what they're watching. You know, they know, they're smart, and it makes a big difference when the fans really know what they're watching.
One of them is Canelo Alvarez, and he is fighting this weekend, looking for another piece of history. How do you see the fight going, and what are you expecting from this fight?
It's a really interesting matchup. I mean, absolutely, Canelo's one of the all-time greats, okay? I mean, listen, 4-division world champion, 3-division unified champion, 2-division lineal champion, the only undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. Saturday, 22nd world title fight, okay? This man started to fight at age 15 years old in Guadalajara, okay? 6 years later, he won 1 world title. Now we see this so many years later. He is a great of our sport. The name of this fight is Legacy is Earned, and that's what this is about, legacy. Yes, okay, it's a light heavyweight title, but he wants something more. He is he wants to prove to himself, he wants to be in the history books. And with doing this, he is, and I believe that Saul Canelo Alvarez is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Finally, you got to tell me about your hair. Why is so long? What's the story behind your hair?
It's a long story, but basically I have not cut my hair desde 88, since 1988, and una promesa. So it was something that I made a life change, and I made a thing to me. I said I will not cut my hair, and then I did not cut my hair.